today's fast-paced world, it's easy to lose sight of our own well-being while managing the demands of our relationships, work, and personal challenges. How can we better nurture our mental and physical health amidst it all? Well, in this episode, we're joined by an inspiring guest, a friend and a mentor of mine, Miriam Henke. A psychologist, coach, and wellness expert, she shares her extensive knowledge on mental health, stress management, and creating a fulfilling life. Today, we'll explore Miriam's profound insights on co-parenting, mindfulness, and holistic wellness. You'll gain practical strategies for caring for yourself and fostering stronger relationships, along with ideas on how small adjustments can bring about meaningful growth.
Welcome aboard The Nichole Show with host Nichole Hamilton. Our task is to educate, empower, and change lives. Join us for stories of resilience and rebirth. Honest talks that inspire and challenge you. Are you ready to make a move? It begins now.
Welcome back, guys, to The Nichole Show, where we are talking to a variety of different people. And today I'm super blessed to have one of my almost very first teachers, counselors, coaches, and mentors, Miriam Henke, in the studio. It's so exciting to have her because, Miriam is a coach, a psychologist, and I met her through this healing journey, and we've had little woven paths, and some of the things that Miriam has helped myself, me and Abs, it was our first, Miriam is our first relationship coach. My brain is going so much faster than my mouth. That's just, the ADHD's kicked in. It's afternoon here in Adelaide. Miriam has been such a profound helper and teacher in my life, in my coaching style, and in our relationship. And so it's going to be really cool to kind of unpack some of the things that Miriam has taught me and share, because I think they'll be really helpful to other listeners out there. So welcome, Miriam.
Thanks, Nichole. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and your listeners today.
So I did want to share like a little story with you. So Miriam taught me Masters of NLP and Hypnosis. I can't even remember what year. I think it was 2015. And it was really, really beautiful and profound. And then I wanted to learn more from Miriam, and Abs and I hit a little rocky patch, but we started doing relationship coaching, and the tools and resources that you have provided, I've kept. Like, they've just been so, so useful. But this one, and I can't remember where you taught it to me. I don't know if it was in the practitioner course or at home, but I do remember it. And it's one that I have used and taught to hundreds of kids and parents and mothers and other kids coaches. So do you remember teaching me the pendulum trick? The pendulum with, okay. So for guys that are who are watching on YouTube, you'll understand what I'm saying. And for those that are listening, you're going to have to use your imagination and imagine holding a tea bag is probably the best description. Like if you don't know what a pendulum is, you hold it and it just dangles. It has a weighted crystal or something at the bottom, and when you just hold it, it doesn't move. But when you ask it questions, it can move certain ways for yes and no's. But Miriam, and this is an energetic healing practice. You can learn it from Reiki, learn it from many different modalities. But Miriam, you had this cool little barometer. So it started at 0 and it went to 100. So if you guys imagine you're driving in your car on the old speedometer. So we have a picture of a 0 to 100. I then created those on paper and made one for anxiety, happiness, anger, choose your own. And this is something that I have taught to hundreds and hundreds of kids, and they love it because it's a visual. And what you do is you tap into your emotion or energetic field, and you can turn up your happiness. You could turn down your anxiety. You can turn up confidence. And it's such a beautiful, I get tingles doing it, but it's such a beautiful way to tap into your body with an external visual and realize that in some instances we can play with our emotions and energies. And I've used it for my health, for my immune system. There's so many ways to do it. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you that has stayed with me, and every single kid that I work with, child, I teach that to, and they love it because it gives them that freedom to ask questions, or if they're a little bit unsure, also tap into the energy of their bodies. And yeah, I've actually probably never even told you that story, but it's literally one of my modalities that I learned from you, and it's the ripple effect is huge. So thank you for that one.
My pleasure. I love hearing that. I think the pendulum is an amazing tool, and using it the way that you're using it with kids, giving them a way to feel empowered to be able to make changes really quickly using this turning up and turning down system. That's fantastic. I really love using it for health related stuff. I'm a health psychologist, and so my area of interest, I really love mind body medicine. And so using the pendulum is an amazing way to invite your body to share with you information about what's going on. How do you make change, like using your conscious awareness and your intention to shift the body into a state of healing. So I often teach people using the pendulum, which is a form of self-hypnosis. It's a form of biofeedback. It's an energetic thing. There's a whole lot. It's so multidimensional, and I love hearing that you're using it that way. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, it literally is a part of my philosophy. And in my own mind, I don't need my pendulum anymore. I can visualize and feel it in the top of my third eye. And so when my immune system's running down, I can ask my body what percentage is my immune sitting at, and I can turn it up. I can do it for, so many different things. It is a beautiful biochemistry. Like you said, it does have a mind medicine to it as well. But it literally, the kids love it because they can also, play with it and ask it questions, and really tap into their innate wisdom of what their body is trying to share, that sometimes our, body and mind are not connected with. So yeah, that just dropped in today that I wanted to share that with you. So it's literally, I teach it all the time. And I also gift the kids their little laminated sheet with with the graph on it and their pendulum, and yeah, it's gone everywhere. However, I will tell you a funny version of that.
Yeah.
I didn't ask permission one time. I didn't think about it, and I taught it to a teenager, and then this teenager never came back. And it wasn't until months and months later that someone gave me some feedback that family was very religious, and that was a I didn't even think. I always check now. It hasn't come up again, but yeah, the energetics was a cross of a boundary. I didn't even think. But yeah, other than that, every single client loves it and uses it. And then the kids teach their parents too. I always ask the kid, what does mum and dad need help with? What do they need to turn up or down? And they always know. They always know. It's so cool.
Absolutely. I think it makes a really good point, Nichole, about not just about the permission piece, which is super important, but also how you position certain tools that you introduce or your modalities. Because there are lots of different things that we both use with our background in NLP that has many different names or could be positioned, depending on your audience, really nicely so that they're more likely to take it on and have less resistance to it. So, like, let's say, for example, if I'm working with someone who's quite, a bit more academic or science driven, I will call the pendulum, this is a biofeedback tool, and explain that. And if they're a bit more spiritual, it's like, okay, this is tapping into your higher self, your energy, it's guiding you. So depending on who it is, how do we position it? So yeah, that's.
I will remember that for next time, because I'm definitely more the spiritual, energetic person, but biofeedback, I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Awesome.
So we were just having a little chat just before off camera, and we're like, where are we going to dive into? Because we love to talk about all things, but me being the kids coach and different things, I'd love you to pick my brain about anything, but you said, well, let's talk about being a step parent. Now, I'm not a step parent, but I'm like Abby is the biological mother of Aurora. So there are some perhaps crossover there that I find, not being I've got my own biological kids, and then Aurora, who's technically not of my womb. I find sometimes there's a boundaries or different feelings there. But I'd love to know, yeah, just give us a little overview of your life. You're a beautiful stepmom, and you moved up there to be closer to these beautiful children. So tell me a little update, and we'll dive into the nitty gritty of that, because this might help somebody.
I'd love to. I feel very privileged to be able to talk about this with you and be able to share with you listeners about my journey. And if there is something helpful in it, then that's wonderful. I have been with my partner Michael for over 13 years now. And when I came into his life, he had 4 very young children. He had 4 under 4, including a set of twins. Just crazy. Just imagine not only being a regular biological parent with that mix, but coming into that mix as a step parent. That was full on. So the eldest child was 4, 3, and then the twins were 18 months old when I came along. And I was not shopping around to be a stepmom when I came into their world. It just happened to be that Michael was the right person for me, and it was a divine guided thing to connect with him and be with him. So in a lot of ways, it was divine for me to be in their lives. And fortunately for me, their dad was fully capable of doing all the parenting things that needed to be done for little kids. He was changing the nappies. He was feeding them. He was making sure this was sorted, that was sorted. There was never in those early days any pressure whatsoever for me to come in as a woman and do the mum thing. That was never something that was put upon me. It was just very lucky that those kids were all and are still all beautiful souls, amazing kids. And it was very easy for me to fall in love with them and start connecting with them and having a relationship with them that was just its own very special thing. So 13 years on, wow, look, the journey has been quite an interesting one in the dynamic of co-parenting. Not so much with Michael. I think Michael and I have got a great partnership, and I think that is a very important part of what makes it work and why the unit with us and the children works well. It's the challenge of the other parents and their agendas and ideas about how things should be and how the children's lives should work. And unfortunately, as the step parent and the not biological mum, I've never really had much of a say. I don't really have much of a seat at the table. So I do my thing, and I love the kids and I take care of them when we're together. But when we're not together and they're living their lives in their other home, it's a hands-off thing. When the children were a little bit littler, they moved to Queensland. We were all originally from South Australia, and the children moved up to Queensland with their mum and their stepdad for their work. And that was extremely difficult for myself and more especially Michael, being separated from the children. But it was the right thing to do, to let them go and move. And we had to adapt. We had to adapt to seeing the kids half time to seeing them every second holidays, or when we could get up the money or the time to be able to get up to Queensland and connect with them. So now the children are 17, nearly finishing high school. That's our eldest, Patrick. And Daniel's 16 in year 11, and the twins, Kate and Tom, they're 14. And we moved to Queensland 3 years ago because, one, we were able to. We had some business circumstances evolve that allowed us to be able to make that move. And we moved up to the Sunshine Coast, which is not only a beautiful place to be, and every now and again you might hear some bird songs and see, the palm trees and so on in the background. But it was allowing us to be closer to the children and to be involved more now that we were in a position to be able to do that. And it's wonderful. I love being a step parent, but it is also a journey of pain.
Yeah.
Because then they're not my biological children, and unfortunately that means that my seat at the table is not really there, so to speak.
Wow.
But it's interesting because I haven't had any of my own children, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. But to be able to play the role of mum and to have the children make the choice to call me mum, which happened only a couple of years into being in their lives, has been and continues to be very special.
So special.
Hmm.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing that and hearing that, because you've made me just have a few little drop-ins which I'll love to reflect. But the
Please.
first one that you said, I have asked this of another step parent before because this is really profound for me. When did you fall in love with the kids? Do you remember the moment? Because it's not something that happens. Like, obviously you knew there was this divine connection with you and Michael, and obviously over time you fell in love with his soul. But he came with a package, and the package was not predetermined. And then when was the moment that your heart knew that these kids, even though they're not biologically yours, were yours? Like, when did you know?
Absolutely. I know the exact 2 moments. So
Good.
moment
Let's
number
hear.
1, the very first time I met the eldest two children, they were at the airport with their dad. It was not too long after we got together, and it was during a very difficult period of time because Michael's mum was terminally ill with cancer, and he was taking them over to say goodbye to their mama.
Oh, wow.
And there was an opportunity to meet them briefly and say goodbye to him as he was going over to be with his mum. And the very first time I eyeballed these 2 little boys, they were sitting on a bench at the airport. They each had a sandwich that they were chewing, and their little legs under the bench were just swinging along, and they're just yum, 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 with their little legs going like this. And I'm like, oh my God, these kids are adorable. And then we went to the little playground that they used to have at Adelaide Airport, and they're playing, look at me, Daddy, look at me. And oh my God, like, to have your heart leap out of your chest. I had that for those 2 beautiful little boys right in that moment. So there was no resistance. I was all in. So that was when I got to meet the eldest 2, and that was love. And then the twins I met a little while later after Helen had passed, and the whole process that happened after that. I got a chance then to meet the twins, and it was so funny because here's this bloke. He's got one of those double prams. He's got 2 of the kids in there, the middle child and one of the twins. He's got a backpack on with another twin on the back. And he's holding the hand of the 4-year-old, and I'm just seeing this package of the dad with 4 children. I'm like, oh my God. But it was that was very endearing. But the thing that was really funny was, like, Kate, who was just, not even 18 months at that stage. She's had, all the children have got beautiful blue eyes, but she's got these piercing blue eyes, and she was eyeballing me. She's like, who are you? And what are you doing with my dad, kind of thing. Like, she was intense. And I was just, just nice to meet you. And anyway, we went for a little play together down in Adelaide. They've got this place called the Beach House, and there's a lovely indoor playground, which is fantastic for little kids. And her and her brother were just being beautiful little toddlers, and it wasn't long before we were all loving on each other and sharing gelati and having a great time. And so I feel like it was really quick with all 4 of them.
Oh, that's so special and beautiful that your heart was so open to feeling them and receiving them and loving on them, because it is a, when we do have blended families, and I have one as well, it is a process of co-parenting and allowing and sharing. And I guess I can almost kind of speak on the 2 sides, but when you're a biological mother, like was so ferocious over Brody and Jacob, my 2 oldest, and they're very similar ages to yours, by the way. So Brody just turned 18, Jake is 14, almost 15, and Aurora is now nearly turning 4. But Abby came in when they were 4 and 7, and Jake was, just fell in love with Abby, would push me out the way, hold her hand, and really deeply connect. And it was beautiful to witness. And harder for me on the opposite side to share those boys with my ex-husband's girlfriends. And luckily he does have a beautiful partner now who's always included them, takes them to Singapore with her when they go as family holidays. And then when Aurora came along, she would still include Aurora with Christmas and presents and birthdays. So I do have there's the ups and downs with it, but I do have a beautiful blended family. But when Aurora came along, obviously Abby and we had a donor, and I was there through the whole pregnancy. But it did somehow still feel different for me. Like, obviously the birth of Aurora, and there's this little human, and Abby's, so in love with her, she grew her. But I remember the moment, and it wasn't too far in, but I do remember the moment where I literally didn't feel different. So for me, it was like I was trying to process. I was trying to, I guess, analyze, not feel. I was trying to, in my head about it, about the boys and Aurora. It was a bit of a shift. And I think as a step parent or the other parent, or however you want to describe it, there has to be a moment where you fall in love with that soul. You can't just, it's not a given. And I remember just loving on Aurora, and I felt like there was no difference. Like there was absolutely in my mind no difference between, birthing my two sons and having Aurora, where I was like, I love this soul. Like, she is just, a part of me, even though I'm not the biological mother. And I think children are a blessing, whether you get to foster, grandparent, be a biological or adopted auntie, kids kind of pick you. And obviously, you having such an open heart as well, kids, they picked you as well. And obviously, again, they picked you to call you mum as well, which is such a beautiful blessing, and that doesn't always happen in parenting and step parenting. So yeah, I think it's a really beautiful part to deeply connect with those little souls, because they all need it. They want to be seen, they want to be loved, and it doesn't matter by how many people. So I absolutely love it. And yeah, I guess I was reflecting on some of the things you said about not having a seat at the table. That would be super hard. I've always tried to include Abby because she is the stepmom to Brody and Jacob. However, there would have been times where she was left out, especially in the early days where I was still navigating a divorce and a separation and my ex-husband. And there's probably even times where I've probably, now in hindsight, really disregarded my ex-husband's partner, because just, I don't know why, maybe in an unconscious way, just thinking that they're mine, like it's my right. Yeah, now thinking about that, like, we've finally had our first blended family event for Brody's 18th, and I did make a real effort to message her and tell her, because I knew she was nervous, how grateful and how loving and how beautiful it was for her to help raise these boys, because they wouldn't have turned out the way they had without her. And so, yeah, I hope that this been landing on people's ears, gives you a little bit of maybe a reflection on how you've behaved in a co-parenting world, because there's not a rule book for it, is there? There's definitely not. And I'm sure there's many, different circumstances in between. But yeah, that thank you for that, because it really did give me a bit of a different perspective on holding space for all the parties involved.
Yeah, and look, I acknowledge that is, every family's got a unique circumstance. We might have things we relate from the stories that you and I are sharing, or maybe not so much. I think one of the things that Michael and I always agreed on was that it was really important to take what we saw as the high road. Don't bite. Be super cautious with how you talk about the other parent in front of the children. Be mindful of the respect has to be all the time, not just tokenistic when it comes to the other parent, regardless of how you personally feel. And I got a whole bunch of personal feelings that the children do not know about. It's not appropriate for them. I look, as a psychologist and a coach, I have obviously worked with a lot of parents and step parents and people who are in challenging co-parenting situations, and my heart goes out when I hear of conflict, or I hear about power plays or manipulations or ways in which a parent puts the other parent down. And children don't know different. They don't separate themselves from their parent. If they hear something about their parent, it's about them. They personalize it. And I knew that because of all my training and all my knowledge, to make sure that we were always mindful. Sorry, that was just a bush turkey that decided to fly behind me just then. Queensland. The thing we always have to be mindful of is the power of our words, and to be super careful with them, because they can really,
Yeah.
they can cause damage, and there's no point causing damage to the people you love for no real good reason.
100%, 100%. And there may have been, I couldn't say that I was the perfect ex or perfect mother in that situation, but I did really always try and keep the things that I needed to myself and be honest where I could. And the one thing that I did always say to the kids, and I always still say, and I even say to my ex now, is that I love him. Like for me, and that feels right for me. So other people might not use that word, but it took him a long time to realize that. I said, I'll always love you. You're the father of my kids. We weren't meant to be together, but that bond doesn't change. We created two humans. And trust me, we have had many, many of other fights and times where he's told me he didn't want to see me again. And I was like, well, that's not an option now because we've got two kids till the day we die. But we are in a really good place now, and that does take consistent work, and me coming back to that place of love and consideration of, what's best for them. It is best for them to see us co-parent. It is best for them to hear that I'll always love their dad, even if I disagree, even if I'm angry at him, even if things, are not communicating well at different times, I'll always come back to that. And that's how I always framed it for me, because those two beautiful kids wouldn't be here without him. And so, yeah, that it has, and here I am 10 years since separating, that we finally have a relationship that I can call on him. We can have beautiful chats. We are doing things together for Brody's 18th and his graduation coming up, and coming back to that love and compassion and understanding for both sides, I think is super important. Yeah.
I really applaud you for that. That would have taken quite a bit of work, with, as is inevitable in any breakups, some baggage and some history to work through to get to that point. So well done you for achieving that. And I hope that in some way he reciprocates, and there is that unified energy, that's that lovely give and take with care and a good intention, both. Yeah.
There is now. It was very resistant to start with, and many conversations. But for me, just coming back to that, I do believe my superpower is unconditional love, but I had to show it not only to myself and to my kids, but to everybody, and including him, which made such a difference. Co-parenting, so interesting. So on the flip side, I don't know if you've ever had this, but when I've seen Abby or do something differently, or with Aurora, because I'm not her biological mum, I kind of took a back seat, and I haven't now, but for the first maybe couple of years, I was like, oh, I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's her child. And, I was giving her the freedom of parenting, because I knew that when somebody overstood me or changed or challenged me, my mom, my ex, whatever, about the boys, I would get quite protective and abrasive. I'm like, no. So I was giving this space. So do you ever find that challenging with Michael, or with the co-parenting thing? Like sometimes you had to hold back, or didn't get your say, or didn't get heard in the parenting? Did those kind of feelings come up?
Hey everyone, Nichole here, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I just want to take a quick moment to talk to you all. If you're finding value in our conversations and loving the raw, honest dialogues we're having here, I've got a small favor to ask. This podcast is a passion project for me, and there's nothing I love more than bringing these stories and insights to you. So if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing to our show and leaving a review? It's completely free and it doesn't take much time, but it really helps us in two big ways. It's getting the podcast in front of more listeners, which keeps our community growing. It helps us attract more amazing guests, which means we give you more value in the episodes we bring to you. Just hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, and let's keep these conversations flowing.
Yep, a lot. Look, I'm very mindful about what I say in this conversation. I have a lot of respect for the other parents.
Of course.
There's a lot of things that we don't agree on, or in many ways in which that Michael and I felt very disregarded, not important, not worth involving in things. And that's just the nature of the personality of particular the kid's mum. And I think what I've really had to do in that journey, I can work with, I feel like I can work through my own feelings and emotions and stuff pretty well. You know, that's been a long journey. If I'm going to teach it to people, I need to be the product of it. And that's certainly something I've worked on. It's actually probably more so the way that I've supported Michael to work through his feelings of not being the primary caregiver or being the main parent, and how he's had to work through his pain on that.
Yeah.
You know, your children can tell you they love you, but if you don't see them for weeks or even months, as it was when we were in South Australia, and you hear about all these life events that have happened for them, that you're like, well, why didn't I hear about this before now? Like, I feel like this is information we probably should have been told or asked a question about. I certainly feel like I have a reasonable authority in the mental health space, but I'm not necessarily asked anything about or brought into conversations around mental health and well-being, which I think is sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it is sad.
If there ever is a time where I feel there's a topic that I really want to push on, and when that's needed to happen, I found the most effective way of doing that is by emailing and putting a balanced position forwards to the other parties, and given some good consideration and suggestion of what I think would be helpful. And I found that usually when I take that approach and it gives them the chance to process and consider without, you know, something more confrontational like a face-to-face conversation, which would be my preference, but that at least allows for some communication to happen over things. And I think in any relationship, we just got to find the way to make it work, or find the way that is most amenable to all parties. And so we've all adapted to try and find a way to make it work.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. That's a really good tip for people, because just in saying that, I know that when, like, my wife, Abby's overwhelmed, conversation doesn't work for her. It just really doesn't. She needs time and a text. She would much rather read it and respond in writing, because she can really articulate her emotions and thoughts through that. And I've had to learn that, you know, the hard way, because I'm a talker. Talk it out. Let's do it now. But giving that time and space and someone to articulate through their words. I had the approach that, you know, that sometimes in our house, our rules go, and their house, their rules go. You don't really have a jurisdiction. You know, when the kids had come to me with different, you know, concerns and different things, I'm like, well, I can't change that. Like, that's what happens at Dad's and, you know, that house, and that's their, you know, their beliefs and their values. I can only change what I can change in our house. In the moments of times that our kids have needed a consolidation of all parents, I've actually been super blessed that in those times, the four of us have been actually able to meet at a neutral place with a coffee and talk about the kids' well-being. And so even when the times that we weren't very close or very good communicators, those were the times that we actually did unite to talk about them and come up with a uniform approach for a behavior or whatever it was. And that was beautiful, because that, again, like, even when communications or different things were happening, the boys could see that we were a united front, that we did honestly care about their well-being or whatever it was. I know that's not always possible for co-parenting, but I really do believe that each parent, step parent or whatever, they contribute so much to the way that these beautiful humans turn out. So all parts should be considered. And I know now there's so many different blended families, that it used to be just, I don't know, the conditioning that, you know, once you broke up with somebody, that was it. You know, you don't like them, that's it. You kind of don't communicate, we're done. But I've seen the evolution of time where these co-parenting families still babysit each other's kids and come for, you know, birthday parties or even dinners. And I really do like that we're switching that up, and that we're more curious about coming back together. It's a slow process, but I am seeing the changes in some of the different co-parenting styles out there.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. And you're right. I think it's getting more normalized, that it doesn't have to be the old, we hate each other and cut each other out of certain things and whatnot, even though that's probably still pretty common.
It is the first point. Yeah,
it is. And look, you know, sometimes we have to hate to get over our pain. That's just a process, you know. So it's our release, one of our releasing processes. So once we get through that, and eventually we're at a point of acceptance, and maybe people have worked on their own stuff and their pains, that they can all be together in a peaceful way, with the view towards what's in the best interest of the children, and how can we create the most beautiful memories for them while they're younger, because that doesn't last very long. It just blows my mind how like in a blink of an eye these children are nearly adults. We've got to make the most of the time that we have and make it as peaceful and loving and supportive as possible, and just to get over our own egos as much as possible, because that's mostly just going to get in the way.
100%. I do. I love that. So what would you say a tip would be then for somebody that is listening to this, that maybe is a step parent or having co-parenting issues? What's a tip that that your go-to to help somebody communicate or go through that? What would be one of your things?
Look, I'll think of something relatively general, because I naturally there is always unique circumstances for each situation. One of the things that I probably encourage a lot when I do relationship work, or I'm encouraging people to consider broader perspectives, because flexible thinking happens when we learn to shift our perspectives, and flexible thinking is powerful. Flexible thinking allows us to shift the way we feel, gives us more solutions. And so one of the things that we learn in neurolinguistic programming, which I'm sure you remember and also feel is really important, is the 3 perceptual positions. There are 3 sound perspectives that we can look at any situation through the lens of. We've got our first person, our own eyes, through which we have our own subjective feelings, we have our agendas, we have our baggage that comes into the space. Then we have the second perceptual position, which is the other person. And there is actually a lot of value in learning properly how to put yourself into someone else's shoes, look through their eyes at a situation, to generate empathy and another perspective, and maybe to look at yourself through their eyes, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable for a bit, because you might just gain some insights that might help you improve in a meaningful way. And then the third perceptual position is the observer. Neither you or me, but really the fly on the wall or something more objective. When we learn to put ourselves in an objective observer perspective, we let go of so much of the emotions about it all, and we can see this big picture from up on high, like bird's eye view. Here's me and that person and the whole situation. What insights do I gain being up here, whether it's in my mind's eye or I talk myself through it or journal through something like that? Shifting those perspectives from first, second, third is so powerful. And if everybody learned and practiced how to do that, especially when it comes to relationships and co-parenting, I think we'd all be better off for it.
I love that. And thank you for that beautiful reminder. I think that is something that I do generally, but for me, I don't remember the analytics and the NLP, like the actual modality of it, but I do, like, just for me saying, I felt that the other stepmother was nervous about going. So I think of it from her perspective. I was like, what would she feel like going into this event? And it's going to be my parents and somebody else that I know. So, calling her, and I just sent a voice message. I actually asked the boys, by the way, I said, do you think I should text her or send her a voice message? Because I love voice. They're like, no, send a voice. So I sent a voice message and just, told her how, if any emotions are coming up, they're all welcome, and that she's so loved and so appreciated for being, that the other stepmother. And, without that awareness of even to be able to consider somebody else's emotions and feelings, and I wouldn't know it if I hadn't done this work, and it is a practice. I don't get it right all the time, but yeah, understanding that, and that's what I think I was doing. I was probably projecting onto Abby, by not being my true authentic self, to trying to be at the very younger ages with Aurora. I was projecting because I was thinking, I didn't like it when someone stepped in, or I didn't, and so through more communication, I was able to, offer my different parenting advice or different ways to go about things. But yeah, I do step into the other person, but a good reminder to sit back on the wall and just be objective and look at all the sides, because there's definitely knowledge to be had from from any situation. And there's never a yes, no, right or wrong, up and down. Like, you really can create a solution that can help all.
Absolutely. And when you get up to that bird's eye view and you look down, you realize it's just small. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, most things are small things. Most things will pass and not be such a thing. If you imagine yourself, sitting up on the moon and looking down on the earth, and imagining your own little body like an ant down there on the planet, you realize just how insignificant and nothing small most things are. And it really helps give you a perspective and just go, you know what, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
It's just a small thing.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that reminder, because if anybody is going through anything that's super hard at the moment, just know that, it'll pass and you've got this. So I love that. So I would love to know, before we finish too much, we can definitely do a part 2, because I actually forgot how beautiful a teacher you are. I was just getting so engaged. Oh yeah, that's right. Because you remember all the facts and figures. I'm a feeling person. I feel things. I don't remember. I would love to know what you're working on now, or, I do know you have a retreat coming to Adelaide. Is that right?
I do. Yeah.
I'd love to know what you're working on, because we'll put all your links and all your bits and pieces underneath for anybody that's listening to this and wants to work with beautiful Miriam. I've referred so many couples to you, by the way, because you did. I just have to tell you one more time how much you holding space for me and Abby helped us work through the things that we needed to get to the plane that we're in now, to be able to communicate and love and do it with such a in a beautiful way. So yes, what are you working on? How can people find you? What is going on in your world?
So firstly, I'm just so pleased to hear that. You do your work, you just never know what the impact is going to be, and I'm so pleased and grateful that there's been a positive impact, and I always appreciate the referrals, so thank you. So I'm a psychologist and a coach, and I have my consulting practice. I see most people on telehealth, because while I'm in Queensland, still most of my clients are based in South Australia, but they're all around the country and international as well. So if people feel like they would like to connect with me for one-on-one work, they're certainly welcome to reach out. I have launched Quantum Retreats, my retreat business. I have wanted to, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have the vision of being able to do something like a retreat or something real special. If you're in the mode of being a teacher, or you have something really special you want to share, and I certainly have that. I have got a retreat coming up in November. This is 2024 November in South Australia, and the Journey to Wellness retreat is focused on learning and applying mind-body medicine principles and practices. I sort of said before, my interest is in a lot of my interests are in how do we empower ourselves to facilitate healing and wellness? How do we manage our stress better? How do we avoid burnout, which is a huge problem at the moment, or even recover from burnout, which is certainly something I do a lot with clients too. So the retreat is a couple of days of just beautiful nurturing, bit of learning, and lots of being taken well care of. So that's exciting. And into 2025, there'll be more retreats in South Australia, up here in Queensland in the beautiful Noosa hinterland, and I'll also be running them in Bali. So I will come back. I will pick your brain about all the things to help facilitate those things successfully, especially over in Bali, which is a beautiful, amazing, healing place to be with a group. I can't wait for that experience. So that's going to be
my brain, and I might even come to a couple, because it sounds, bring abs and come to a couple, because it's nice to be a facilitator, but when you get to surrender and just be a part of the actual healing, it's guys who've never been on a retreat, anybody listening, it is the most beautiful connective experience. Doesn't matter who you pick to go to, but you'll meet some of your best friends. You'll have such a profound shift in your mental clarity, or your connection, your love. It is honestly my favorite thing to host and then be on, because it's so intense and it's so beautiful. And everybody gets nervous before they go on one. So if you haven't done one, please look up Miriam or anybody else and look into retreats, because it really is a divine space to allow yourself to switch off and heal. And any mama bears listening to this, you are so entitled to switch off and have some of you time, because if you fill your cup when you go back, you will just be at a different energetic state, a different level of love, and the compassion and the energy that you'll be able to put into all your relationships, whether they're partners or children or friendships. It really does make a difference.
100%. So well put, Nichole. I completely agree. There's nothing like a getaway, an immersive experience where you solely get to focus on you and your journey and your nurturing. There's nothing like it. So 100% agree. Retreats are amazing if you can make them happen for yourself. I also have another venture that I'm doing. I do work in corporate wellness. So I've got a new business that I launched this year called Leading Wellness Solutions. So this is for workplace wellbeing. And so we've got my business partner and I, Dr. Simone Shaw, we've got a free webinar series we've been running the second half of this year, educating leaders on how to enhance mental health and wellness in the workplace. And we have programs for delivering in workplaces to educate leaders as well as all staff on how to take care of themselves better, how to communicate better, how to make sure that, we're checking in on each other and building mentally healthy workplaces, which, is just the next level of where people spend so much time of their lives, like 33% of our lives are spent at work. So, we've got to be taking care of ourselves there too. I love that I've got these different ventures that I'm involved with. There's more, but we've not got no more time for that, but I'm very happy. Yeah, you sure? Are you happy? I'll just mention two other ventures. I have a business that I launched with my partner, Michael, not just the amazing dad of my stepchildren, but he's also one of those a beautiful mind type, freaky genius type people. And he is an absolute authority in photobiomodulation, also known as red light therapy, which some people may have heard of. Just an amazing modality for facilitating healing in the body. And Michael's built up this business, Lifespan Dynamics, with an amazing collection of clinicians who use our devices in their clinics, helping people facilitate healing and providing devices that people can use at home to continue their wellness. I use mine all the time. I've got one by the bed. It's just this beautiful pad of lights that takes away pain and heals things that are, not working properly. And oh my goodness, so many different things that light therapy can be used for. But I'm really, really proud of what Michael's built, and with my support in the background, doing the odd job as part of my role. So that is a big area you'll probably see me do more of in the future. And we also established a clinic up here in Maroochydore. So any Queenslanders or people who are visiting the Sunshine Coast, if you'd like to experience some amazing cutting edge technologies, light, sound, frequency, other types of therapies that are amazing healing, you can catch them at the Lightbridge Clinic in Maroochydore. So there is a lot of things I'm involved with, but I am very passionate. Health and wellbeing is always at the corner of it, and encouraging people to feel empowered with their health.
Oh, I'm just celebrating you. I'm so proud, so proud of your achievements and where you're going. And yeah, you've definitely helped and been a teacher. And I'm can't wait to see you tick some more boxes and just, really follow your heart's desires, because you just are a beautiful, passionate lady and a born teacher. You learn something, you research it, you really understand it, and then you teach it in such a beautiful way, the way that you can unpack and hold space. Yeah, I can't give you enough credit, but the way that you speak and hold space and explain things when someone's brain works a different way, you do have a gift. So it's been super special to chat to you, and yeah, we'll put all your links underneath. And thank you for being a mentor and a friend to me and Abs over the years. And let's see what else we can do in the future.
I'd love that. Thanks so much, Nichole. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be here with you today and to just share some stuff that's, really special to me.
Yeah, there's been some moments I wrote them on my hand so my VA can get them, because I was like, that's good. That's the real. So there's been some super special moments that, I've definitely pulled on my heartstrings. And thank you so much for just being you and sharing.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nichole.